Hello friends, and welcome to this crochet tutorial where I'm going to show you how to make this whale bowl. You'll notice that it is a nice size. The tail has no wires in it. It is all made with yarn. For the body we will use double yarn, and in the front we will use a single yarn. On the bottom, we use a leather bottom. I got these from AliExpress. And we have safety eyes, which I also got from AliExpress. I will include the links into the description. You notice that our little whale also has fins to guide him. So come join me if you'd like to make this whale bowl. It does go pretty quick. So let's go sailing off together. The materials and the tools that we're going to need to make the whale bowl. Here you see I have a gray leather bottom. I got this from AliExpress, and it does come with the feet included so that it can stand up straight. This is a nice sturdy leather bottom. It doesn't bend that easily. I also have some eyes. They come in a kit of about 6 different styles. This one is blue. You'll notice that on our whale it's a green, shades of green and blue, yellow, red. So there's many to choose from. They also come with their safety backings. We're going to need a tapestry needle. We're only going to use one hook in this, a size 3.75 millimeter, and a pair of scissors. For the yarn, I have gray, Red Heart Super Saver, and the other one I have is royal blue. In this case, I've rolled it up into a double, although we're going to start off with single, so that way we can make our fins and our tail. So let's get started. So let's begin. We're going to start off with a small tail, and we're going to make a slip knot onto our hook. And then we're going to chain 20. 1, 2, 3, 4. Please continue until you have 20 chains. At the end of 20 chains, we're going to make a half double crochet in the second chain from the hook. We do not count the loop on our hook, so we skip this first one and go into our second one. Now to do a half double crochet, place your finger on the loop and yarn over. Insert your hook into the middle of the second chain, pull up a loop, yarn over and through all 3 loops on your hook. Okay, let's do that again. We're going to be doing half double crochets all the way across to the end of the row. At the end of the row, you'll have 19 half double crochets. Please continue to the end of the row. At the end of the row, let's chain 1 and turn our work. Into our first stitch here, we're going to do a regular half double crochet, but we want to go under this line right here. In our next stitch, we're going to do a back post half double crochet. So yarn over, we're going to come in from behind to the stitch that we just did, and we're going to go across and pick up the yarn and come through the front and go to the back, pull up a loop, and yarn over and through all 3 loops on the hook. And to do the front post, we're going to do basically the same thing. Right here under that strand that went across, and through the back and come out on the other side of the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over through all 3 loops on the hook. Okay, we're going to be doing this across, all the way across, front and back. You see how it gives the line look? And that's what we are looking for as we go along this row. So continue across till you get to the end of the row, and I'll meet you there. So here I have done my back post. I have 1 stitch left, so that'll be where I'm going to just insert it through all 3 of those, the top 2 and this bar that's under those as well. Okay, and then chain 1, and let's turn. So you notice that either side that you look at it, it has the looks of lines. Okay, so we take note of what's going on right here. We notice that our hump right here is going to be a front post. So this means that I'm going to start off with just a regular half double crochet. And so for this one, I want to go under the front post. So go behind, like so. Pick up a loop and yarn over and through all 3 on the hook. We want to do the back post next. And then the front post. Okay, continue across. You'll notice that this one is going to be a front post, and then your very last one will just be a regular half double crochet. So I would like for you to chain 1 and turn your work, and we're going to do these rows 3 more times. Okay, so we're going to have this row here, this row here, and this row here. After you complete those 3 rows, we'll be ready to start our decrease rows for the shaping of the face. So our first row of decreasing, instead of doing this first one right here, we're going to go straight into our front post. Okay, and then we're going to go directly into our back post. And we'll do our front and back all the way across, and I will meet you at the end of the row to show you how to finish this row. So please pause your video. So at the end of this row, we're going to do our front post, half double crochet, and then our regular half double crochet. Chain 1 and turn. We're going to skip this half double crochet on this next row and go right straight into the front post. Okay, and then we'll go right into the back post. Okay, do the front and back post till you get to the end of the row, and I'll show you how to finish this row. So as before, we're going to do our front post and then our regular half double crochet. And as we turn our work, oh, don't forget to chain one. We're going to skip this one right here. And you'll notice how we're losing this front post. Okay, and that's okay. So we're just going to go ahead and go directly. Okay, so we're skipping this stitch here. We're going to go directly into the front post of our next stitch there. Okay, and then back post. All right, so I don't know why this yarn is just snagging terribly for some reason. Maybe because the hook is so small. I hope you don't have that snagging problem. But anyway, when we get to the end of the row, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go ahead and do our front post and then our half double crochet, and then when we chain one and turn, we're going to skip and we're going to lose a front post row here. So we're going to go straight into the next one. So continue doing that. We're going to do it for a total of 3 more rows. So count this one as row 1, 2, and 3, and I'll meet you there. So at the end of this row, we're going to go ahead and just do a single crochet to bring the stitch down to the same height. So we have a nice little curve. And then we want to leave a long tail, about 18 inches. We will use that for sewing the curvature onto the wale when we're ready to attach it. Okay, so before we move on, let's go ahead and take our tapestry needle. And when you look at it, you can decide which end you like the better look. And then what we're going to do is we're going to bring our yarn on that inside so that you can't see that you brought the yarn down. You want to bring it all the way down to the bottom. So when we sew up our side, you won't be able to see where we started and stopped. Okay, so let's move on to our fins and our tail. So we're going to start off with a magic circle. So let's have a short tail. We'll wrap it around, bring our hook under, make that little twist, and chain one. And into our magic circle, let's place 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, untwist our tail, place a gentle pinch on your stitches and pull the tail with your left hand until it's all snug and tight. Don't pull it so hard that it actually breaks your yarn. That would be no fun. Okay, so if you can't tell where your stitches stop and start, you can always count the little V's on the top. So we have 1, 2, 3, and here's number 4 right over here. So into our first stitch, it may be a little snug. Let's place 1 single crochet. I'm used to using blanket yarn, so using this worsted weight wool or acrylic is slowing me down. Okay, so we have 1 in one stitch. We're going to place 2 in our next stitch. So here's 1 and 2. Of course, we know 2 in one stitch is known as an increase. Okay, we want to place 1 in our next stitch. Usually this first row, especially of 4 single crochets, it's really kind of tight. Just go with it. You know, if I can do it, you can do it too. Okay. Also, I'm used to using the 7mm hooks. So here's 1 and 2. So we did a single crochet and an increase 2 times. Let me put this second stitch in. There we go. Now before we move on, we need to turn this inside out, so take and push all of that to the front. There we go. So we should have 6 stitches all the way around. So with those 6 stitches, we would like to place an increase in every stitch. So that means 2 single crochets per stitch. At the end of the row, you should have 12. So I have 2, 3, 4. All right, I'm not going to bore you. Continue until you have a total of 12 around. So we're going to do 2 rows of the 12 single crochet. So continue around 12, 2 rows. So 1 and 2. So after the 2 rows, you have like a little finger cover here. All right. So our next row, we're going to do a single crochet. This is the first part of our repeat, and then we're going to do a decrease. So to do a decrease, you pick up the loop, the front loop of the first stitch, and then the front loop of the second stitch. So you can see you have the 3 loops here. So you're going to yarn over and pull through those 2, and then yarn over through the 2 again. And what that's done is taken the 2 stitches and turned it into 1 single crochet. And then we're going to go into our next stitch and just do 1 single crochet, and then we're going to do the decrease again. Okay, let's see. So single crochet and decrease. We're going to do this a total of 4 times, and that'll take us back to the beginning of our row. Okay, now if you have the long tail like I do, just go ahead and wrap it around your finger and stick it in there. It'll be okay. We're not using any stuffing. So for our next row, we're going to do 2 single crochet, and 1 decrease, okay, and then we're going to stop right there. We're going to go into the next stitch, and we're going to go across. Okay, we're going to close both of those ends with a single crochet. So here's 1, 2, and 3. All right, so we have a little fin. Even though it has the little bit of yarn on the inside, we have our first fin. please go back to where we started our fin and let's make it again. Okay, that'll take just a couple of minutes, so please pause your video. Oh, I forgot to tell you, just have a short tail because we're going to be crocheting the single crochets into the body of our whale. Sorry about that. So what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be making the fins for the top of the tail. So let's start off with a magic circle. And we're going to place 4 single crochet into our magic circle. Okay, let's pull it closed. So into our first stitch here, let's place 1 single crochet. Like I said before, this first one is usually pretty tight. I guess because I'm used to working with blanket yarn, I guess I pulled it too tight when I closed it. Okay, oops, I just did a slip stitch. Yeah, I make mistakes. It happens. And you know the funny part is it always happens on camera. It never wants to do it off camera. It always does it on camera. So let's try that again. That was my blooper. So we got 1 single crochet in the first stitch and 2 in the second. And we're going to repeat that one more time to complete this row. Okay, so 1 single crochet in that first stitch and 2 or increase into the second. Okay, so that completes this row, but we need to turn it inside out. So let's flip it over and find, you can see the magic circle right there. Let's go ahead and push that through so that the right side of our stitches is sticking out. Okay, and let's move on. We're going to do 2 single crochets. So here's our first one. Let's go to our second stitch and do our second one. Okay, and then in our next stitch, an increase. Okay, we're going to repeat that. 1, next stitch 1, next stitch 2. You should have 6 single crochets all the way around. So our next row, we're going to place 2 in every stitch around, which will give us an increase of 12. So here's 1, 2 in the first stitch, continue around until you have 2 in every stitch, and you should have a total of 12 stitches. So after you've completed that, we're going to do 1 row of 12 single crochets around. So I encourage you to do that, and I'll meet you at the end of the row. So we have a smaller cone. All right. I also noticed too that my keeps hitting the table. I'm sorry about that. I put music on my videos before, and YouTube would give me a copyright strike. So I just decided to stop putting music on, even though it was copyright free music. I put down all the information that the creator made, and apparently it wasn't accepted enough. So sorry if you hear the I am so close to the table using my GoPro. Okay, so this next row we're going to be doing single crochet and then decrease. So single crochet, and let's decrease. Okay, so did you see how I did that decrease? Okay, so we're going to pick up the front loop of the one stitch and into the second stitch the front loop. So you see how we have 1, 2, 3 loops. So yarn over and only pull it through those 2 loops, the first 2, and then yarn over and through the second, and that'll complete that single crochet. And it looks like a single crochet and not a cluster of pulled stitches together. Okay, so we want to do this a total of 6 times, and I've already done it twice. So here I'm on number 3. Okay, so continue on 3 more times, single crochet, decrease, single crochet, decrease, single crochet, decrease, and I'll meet you there. Please pause your video. And since the hole's getting kind of small, let's go ahead and take our tail and twist it up and stick it in there. All right, and so this time we're going to do single crochet, decrease 2 times. So single crochet and decrease. Okay, so that took up the first 3 stitches. All right, now we're going to take up the second 3 stitches. So single crochet and decrease. All right, there we go. Okay, so you should have 4 stitches here around. Let's see what we got here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so go ahead and let's cut this a little tail here and bring it through the loop. And so let's go back into the video again, and we're going to make a second fin so that we can have the upper half of our whale tail. So at the end of the second fin for the tail, we don't want to cut it. So we're going to come in here to the first one and insert our hook into the next stitch past the decrease. That was the last stitch on that row. Okay, oops, let's bring the yarn over onto the other side. There we go, makes it easier to work. Okay, pull up a loop, and here we have our first join. So we have 1 in our first, and we're going to go all the way around. So we have a total of 4. So there's 2, 3, and here's number 4. Okay, so for our next stitch, we're going to go in. What I do is I join them together so that there's no hole. Okay, so let's join and go back to that first stitch and pull through both of them. Okay, and that completes that one. I need to take that tail, we'll weave it in later. Okay, so there's 1. There's 2, 3, and here's number 4. Okay, so here we have joined our tails, our fins. Okay. So we're going to go around one time where we're going to have 8 crochet stitches around. Now, I guess I should have suggested that we use a stitch marker. So here I've done 2 already. Okay, so let's continue around with our single crochets until we have a total of 8. And that'll take you all the way around to right here. Moving on, let's do 1 and 2, and let's not forget to replace our stitch marker. On our third one here, let's do an increase. Okay, single crochet, 2 and 3. Let's do an increase. You'll notice that our increases will be on the sides, and then 1 extra here. Our next row will be 10 single crochet all the way around. Please continue until you have a total of 10. So for this row, we're going to do an increase. So we want to do 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we're going to increase. It's right here on the side. Okay, let's scoot over to the other side. We're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and then an increase. Four, and an increase. Okay, notice how our fin is starting to get wider. And then we're going to do 2 rows of 12. So go around twice for 12 stitches each row. All right, we're going to have another row of increases. I've already done 1 stitch here. 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then we're going to increase. And we'll repeat that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and increase. We're going to do one row of 14 crochet, single crochet around, and I'll meet you there. We're going to do another increase row. So let's start off with 6 single crochets and an increase, 6 single crochets and an increase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, increase, and then for our next row around we will be doing 16 single crochets, and we will be doing that for a total of 10 rows. So after you complete this, go ahead and continue on with 16 single crochets for 10 rows. When you completed your 10 rows, I will meet you there where we will do one row to single crochet it closed. So what I usually do is I mark my first row so I don't have to count as I go on. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 rows. And so what we're going to do is finish it off is wherever you stopped at, because if you follow this it'll bring you over here. Take this and fold it so that you have your first stitch showing up on this side of the fold. So we're going to go through that first stitch and into that stitch behind. Okay, we're going to close this by doing 1 single crochet in each stitch across. And when we get to the end, we're going to leave about 12 to 18 inches so that way we can sew the tail on after we're completed with the bowl itself. It'll just make it easier instead of crocheting it in and having to deal with wobbly parts all over the place. So here I'm going to have some extra and then just pull it through. So this is what we will have for right now. I'm going to show you here on my original one that I made. Okay, you see how we have the holes here. Now I've compared the holes because I did order this one separately from this. I thought maybe I could use beige, but I felt that the gray was better. So there is the same amount of holes here. So I would like to point out what we're going to do. We're going to start here in the center back. Okay, and then I'm right-handed, so we'll be going this way around. So we're going to start here and we're going to put 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet, and then you'll notice right here around these feet we're going to place 3 single crochets, and then we'll do 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and here we are around these feet again. But in this case I added some extras. Okay, so here's 1, 1, 2, and 3. So no, I didn't add extras. I thought I did. And then we come over here, 1, 2, 3. We come down here, 1, 2, 3, and then 1 and 2, and then we're back where we finished, where we started at. So in order for us to get a good solid base, we're going to take our yarn. So we're not going to use one strand, but we will use the same size hook. So we're going to take the strand from the outside and from the center, and we're going to join them together like this. Okay, now as you go along, you can take it off of your skein so that you don't have to make a ball out of the whole thing, because we're not going to be using quite as much. You'll see here that we do have just a couple of rows, and then we'll be changing to our blue. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started by doubling up on your yarn, placing, you know, a small tail with a slip knot on your hook, and then we're going to be starting right up here in the center back of our, with the little feet facing towards us. See, here's the flat, that'll be the inside, so the little feet facing towards us, and we're going to start right here. Okay, so get your yarn ready and get your slip knot on, and place it on your 3.75 millimeter crochet hook, and then we will move on. So working with this will not be hard. It will be a little cumbersome, but I think once you get the hang of it, it's not really that bad. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and insert our hook into that first one, and then pull up a loop, okay, and complete a single crochet. Now you want to complete the top right here. So that means that this is going to be like a elongated single crochet. So we're going to do one here, we're going to do one in the next one. Okay, and remember to elongate, and then snug it up if you need to. And we'll do one in the next one. Okay, so now the next two, or three, we're going to place two in each of these holes. Okay, so here's one, and here's two in the same hole. Okay, so we're going to do two in the next one. Oops. Okay, there's one. And two. And don't worry about, I will go around with you to make sure that we get these right. Okay, so here's the second one. So now we're going to do the third one, where we're going to do two. Okay, so the next one for the three will be down here. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so let's count back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So go ahead and do the 7, and then the 3, and I'll meet you there. Okay, now remember, the 3 is going to be 2 single crochets. So did you find that pretty easy? Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then increase, increase, increase. So next we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then increase, increase, and increase. And I'm telling it to you this way because I think it would be a little bit easier than me taking a good portion of the video just to show you how to put this on. So a small section at a time. So 5 singles and 3 doubles. So we're going to do the same thing like we did on this other side. We'll do 7 singles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 3 doubles, and then just the 2 singles, and then we'll be at the beginning again. Okay, so 7 singles, 3 doubles and 2 singles. Alright, so let's enlarge our loop. Now if any of these are curled down like this, you can take them and work them back so that they're at the edge, so that it will remain flat. Okay. Now we're going to finish this off, but what I would like for you to do is on your tail and on this right here, we're going to tighten that up. We are not going to use this loop because this loop is actually considered the finishing for this. So we're going to go and enlarge your loop, take your hook out, and come up from behind past this first stitch. Okay, and then take the loop and go over and pull it through where you just brought your hook. Okay, don't pull the tail like I just did. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to snug this up and chain 1. You see how it gives it more of a finished look? Okay, now we're going to be doing on this next row front post single crochets all the way around in each stitch. So, well, actually it's back post. So go from, we're going to insert the hook, we're going to go to the next one, we're going to draw the loops through, and I have a lot of yarn right here, so okay, pull up a loop, yarn over, and complete that first front or back post single crochet. Let's go to the next one. Oops, have a little looseness there and pull it through. Now the reason why we're using a back post stitch is because it'll help give it more of a 90-degree angle instead of just doing a single crochet, which will cause it to curve out more. So let's move on to our next one. Back post into the next stitch. Take your time with it. It's not going to be hard. Like I said, the first couple of rows on this will feel cumbersome. Oops. I went through one of the stitches on the loops there. Okay, so we're going to go all the way around. Now, I know I didn't ask you to place a stitch marker, but if you will feel more comfortable having a stitch marker, let's go ahead and mark our first one right here. Okay, because that's where our first one is. Here's our chain 1. All right, so continue with the the back post single crochet all the way around. I'll meet you at the end of the row to show you how to join it so we can move on to our second row. I know that took a little bit of time, but it's something that we're not accustomed to doing. Okay, so we want to slip stitch into our first, here, let me take out my stitch marker, into our first single crochet of this row. Okay, you notice how that got, so let's snug everything up. There we go. And we want to chain 1. Okay, so let's enlarge our loop. And you notice how everything is along the edge here. We still want to, bring it up. Our feet are down. Okay, so here's our feet. So we want to curl it up. And this will make it so that the stitches don't feel quite so stretched out. All right, so here's where we're going to need a couple of stitch markers. We want to come down here and find the center one and count back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then place a stitch marker. And you'll notice that that's at the one stitch, okay, above here. So if we count all the way around, we should stop right here at the one stitch above the 2 that we have right here. And what we're going to be doing is when we get to that point, we're going to take our little front flap, and on the bottom here we have 19 single crochets. So we're going to be adding this to our row as we go around. So in the process, let's go ahead and start doing just regular single crochets in each stitch up to our stitch marker. All right, continue until you get to the stitch marker, and I'll meet you there. Okay, so I'm here at my stitch marker, so I'm going to go ahead and remove it. And I'm going to take and decide which end I like most, which they basically both look the same. So I'm going to insert my hook into the flap, the front flap, and then into the next single crochet stitch, and then complete a single crochet. And I'm going to do this with each stitch lining up as I go around. After we've completed our whale body is when we will sew down this gray flap right here in the front. So keep doing this till you get all of the stitches down, because when you pull it up you can see how it's already attached. So keep going until you get here to the other side, and then complete all the way to the end of the row. You'll slip stitch and chain 1, and I'll meet you there. So let's not forget, at the end we want to slip stitch and chain 1, and we're going to go around all the way around with 1 single crochet, but do not include the flap, just the single crochets. And when we get back here, we're going to change colors. So just 1 row of single crochet around. So here I'm coming up to the end of my row, and I'm just going to slip stitch, and I'm going to go ahead and cut my yarn and pull it through. Okay, so we have completed some rows. Remember, we didn't want to single crochet onto this. We just do single crochet around with single crochet. Now our next row, we're going to be adding fins and the tail. Okay, so let's get our blue together. Make sure that you have doubled the yarn. And if you keep questioning why are we having to double the yarn, well, you'll know that as you have single yarn, it's not as firm and strong. When you have double yarn, you can maintain its shape a lot better without having to put some sort of support in here. So make sure you have your yarn doubled, and let's plait a slip knot on our hook, and we'll start by adding our tail and working around on our first row of blue. But before we move on, if you have any loose ends, which I know on the first row we didn't crochet over our tail, let's go ahead and take this and weave it in either under the tail, or I'm going to come out front here and go under my stitches right here in the middle, and this will help hide it so it won't come unravel, it won't come undone, and it'll be in between our stitches here. I guess my stitching is a little tight. There we go. So I'm going to go under a number of stitches here. See, I'm just going in between them. And since it's not really going to be used a whole lot, we can go ahead and cut it off. Now, the gray one, we can either weave it in or we can crochet over it as we go around, and we'll do that with our blue yarn as well. Alright, so let's get started. Let me grab my tail. I know I said leave a long tail on it. Do not cut it, because later on we're going to have to tack it up here onto the body so that it'll maintain and you can roll it or fold it over. So we have our wrong side of our stitches. We want those facing us, and we're going to find the center back. You can find that center back by in between the two little feet on the leather piece. Then we're going to insert the hook. We have a slip knot on our hook. We're going to insert it into that first stitch and find that center. Let's see, does that one look right? Yeah. Okay, pull up our yarn. And complete a single crochet. Now you can take this tail and we can crochet over it, and when we get to the gray one we can crochet over that too. Now with all these yarns that we have going around, don't be confused. So we're going to keep our single one out. We don't want to crochet over that. So we'll pick up our next stitch and go into the next hole. We'll crochet over that tail. Once we go over 2 or 3 stitches with the tail, we can cut it. We don't have to hold on to it. So here's another one. All right, I'm going to do one more for the blue, and then I'm going to cut that tail. So we're starting in on the gray one now. All right, so here I'm picking up the gray tail. But let's cut the blue one. Yeah, I know you're going through a whole lot of layers, but we got this. Okay, so once we get this down, we want to go and find where we want to place our side fins at. Okay, I'll go ahead and cut this gray one. Make sure we pick up the next stitch. We don't want to overlook a stitch, because then we'd have to come back, and we don't want to undo what we've just done. Okay, so now we got all this extra yarn to play with. Let's get those out of the way. Okay, so we're going to add our fins about the same level as where the gray stops and starts. So it'll be about right here. It can be one stitch off, it could be one stitch over. We will not crochet on top of the front flap here, but if we pull it up, that'll give us an idea of where we want to put it. Okay, I usually make it so that there's one stitch between the end and the side fin. Okay. And of course you'll do the same thing on the other side. Have one stitch and then add your fin and then continue around. So let's go up to that point. After we do this row, we're going to do 7 rows of just single crochet around, but we're going to do it in a spiral, so you don't have to stop and start with a slip stitch and a chain 1. Okay, I'm up to that point where I'm ready to add my fin. I got 3 single crochets on my fin, so I'm going to go ahead and pick up the first one. Pick up the second one. And pick up the third one. Now you notice I have my tail here. I'm going to go ahead and crochet over the top of that. Remember, as you get over here, make sure you have them both in the same spot, and add your 3 single crochets to hold it down. And when we get here to the end, just keep on going. Don't chain, don't slip stitch. We come here, jump up to the first single crochet, and continue around. And you're going to add 7 rows of straight single crochet. This will take you a little while, but I know you can do it. After we do those 7 rows, we still have some more things that we need to do, so don't cut your yarn or anything. Please pause your video and I'll meet you there. And while you're at it, be sure to take a break, give your hands a rest, and exercise your hands just a little bit so that they don't feel stiff and tighten, because being new to doing these kind of bowls does put a little pressure on your hands and your shoulders. So at the end of the 7 rows, your top part of the gray should be the top row. See how they should be even? We're going to be doing a couple more rows of blue, but I wanted to show you this is where it should be at. If it's not at this height, the blue and the gold, go ahead and do another row of blue until it is at the height. If adding the extra row makes it a little bit higher than the gray, that's okay, because we're going to be sewing the gray down anyway. All right, so let's move on to our next row. So what we're going to do is we're going to single crochet up to about where the fin is, and then we're going to start decreasing a couple of times so that the head can curve in just a little bit, not a lot, just enough to give it that curvature back. So let's get our yarn on our hook, and I'm going to bring the camera up closer so that we can move on. So go ahead and single crochet up to where the fin is. It doesn't have to be exact, just up to this area. So what we're going to do here, you'll notice that I stopped about middle of the fin. We're going to do 2 single crochet and a decrease. So here's 1. I'm in front of the camera, so for those of you who may be new watching me, I have a GoPro and it's probably about 6 inches from my job, so sometimes it's hard to crochet in front of my GoPro, but I use a GoPro because it stays in focus all the time, so I don't have to worry about losing the focus. So I did 2. Now we're going to do a decrease. So we're going to do an invisible decrease. So you want to pick up the front loops of the next 2 stitches, like so, and pull the yarn through those 2 loops, and then complete it as if it was a single crochet. Excuse me. Now we're going to continue with this 2 single crochets decrease until the last one will be a decrease, which will be basically over the center top of the fin. So continue doing that, 2 single crochet decrease until you get to the center top of that fin. Okay, well mine stopped about the first stitch at the fin, but if yours stops in the center, that's all right, because you'll notice that we really are not keeping track of a lot of the stitch counts and whatnot. So go ahead and single crochet all the way around until you get to the fin on the other side, and then we're going to be doing some more decreases, but in a different location. So this time we're going to do 3 single crochet and 1 decrease until we get to where the fin is on the other side. So one, 2, 3, and decrease. Okay, so repeat that until you get over here. So, and like before, I stopped right here at the front of the fin, which is okay. So let's go ahead and we're going to go all the way here, raise the flap of your tail, and you want to stop in the center back. So we're going to come all the way down here. When you get to this area, stop, because we're going to do some stitch changes, and then we're going to do an invisible join to close it off. So come on down, find your center, but stop back a few stitches, and I'll show you how we're going to close this off. Okay, so I've stopped about 2 stitches from the edge of my tail. Oops, can you see? About 2 stitches. So the next stitch will be a slip stitch. You just pull that loop and keep gumming through the loop on your hook. We're going to do that a couple of times. So there's 1 and 2, and you'll see how it drops it down and helps make it as a straight line. Then I would like for you to take your tail, your yarn, and cut it with about a 6-inch tail, and then pull it through, making sure that the loop that's already down here does not get pulled and distorted. Keep it the same length. Okay, so what we're going to do now is called an invisible join. Now this is the stitch that we're in, so we don't want to do this one because we just finished that one. So we want to go to the next one. So let's pull out our tapestry needle, and we're going to take it and go through, not this first one, but the second one. pull it through, line it up, give it the same tension as the rest, and then bring your yarn to the front and go through the center of the loop and come on down here towards the bottom in the back there. Okay, so let me pull my needle out. See, here's the center of the loop, so go through there, come down just a little bit, and then when you tighten that, try to keep it the same tension as the rest of the stitches at the top. And when you look at it, well, you may have a little tiny bump here, but it's okay. We'll still have like one straight line when it's done. Then you can take your yarn and come on down in the back here a little. Now, knowing that this is a little stiff, because this is what gives the bowl its structure, it's going to feel stiff working this, and that's okay. So go through the back side of these stitches. Okay, now it's going to seem a little cumbersome and a little tight, but that's okay. So go through a couple. Now come over the top of one and then go back into some other ones here, on going back the other direction. Now if you go back into the same hole, you're going to lose what you just did, because it'll basically pull it out. Okay, and that'll help lock that in place. It's not going to go nowhere, so we can go ahead and cut it. Okay, so if you look at our little bowl here, you're going to have to shape it a little bit because we've been playing with it. We have our fins, we have our front flap here, and we have our tail. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to tack the tail down. So with the blue that we left from the very beginning, let's go ahead and bring it close. We're going to go into the middle and then pull the needle out. Okay, we don't want it showing on the back side. So let's bring it out. Okay, now depending on how you want your little flap of your tail to be, you could have it down here, you could have it up here. I'm going to bring mine up just a little bit higher. Okay, so I have mine at 1, 2, the third row from the bottom, and we just want to bring the tail straight up and pick up a couple of stitches here. Okay, like I said, these are it's a little snug stitching because of the hook size and the double yarn. And I have my phone on because I'm waiting on a phone call, so sorry for the noises. And then we're going to go through the center again. And then we're going to pick up some more stitches. Okay, you'll want to go around it a couple of times. And then what we'll do is weave it off on the inside like we did with the invisible join. So go ahead and do that, and then we'll add the flap sewn down to the body next. So for doing the front of the whale, okay, we're going to do a little bit of shaping. So let's bring over so that our lines kind of go up straight. Now I'm going to pull out some straight pins. You can use needles, you know, yarn needles, but I'm going to take these and bring them down to hold it in place, and then bring this over just a little bit to hold it in place. And this will help us as we're sewing to keep it in place. And we want to make sure we have a straight line across the top. So, well, we're supposed to have 2 rows showing. 2 rows of the blue is supposed to be showing. So right there, I pulled mine up a little too high. Okay. Oops. There we go. And before you start sewing, you also want to make sure that it looks even, you know. We don't want it to look sloppy. Okay, so, yeah. Now you'll notice that even though the stitching is pulling here, of course we'll be pulling this over, so might as well add some more pins to it. Okay, and I'll be pulling this over anyway. Alright, so since we have our needle threaded, we're just going to pick up the outside part of the stitch. We're going to come under, like so. So we picked up a little bit of the stitch here and come out here. Now if you pick up the front part of the stitch, you won't see the stitching on the inside. Okay, so let's pick up a little bit of that stitch. Oops. There we go. And take your time and make sure that all of this is straight. We do not want to have to come in here and rip out stitches because it wasn't straight. Alright, so continue on all the way around, and then we can finish it on the outside and weave our yarn here in the middle of the stitches down here at the bottom. Alright, I made it all the way to the other side. So what I did is I dropped my needle down and brought it up right here a couple of stitches over from the edge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the center front of a few of these stitches. As you can see, I went through 4. And then I'm going to go over 1 stitch and come back through the way I came. Okay, remember, you need to go over or over a stitch, because if you go back through the same hole, it's just basically pulling it all out. Alright, now even though it looks like Mr. Crunchy here, we will shape it. Okay, so for the final touch, we're going to place our eyes in. I got blue on this one. On my other one here, I have the green and red, which I thought was really cool. But this one is a little different. So we want to go over from the top edge here. 1, 2, 3. And then we place our backing on. Now, yes, you will have these little stumps in the back, but it would be a good idea if you leave them there, because well, you could heat them up and melt them down so that way, but they're not going to damage anything. So there we go. See, it's on there. So let's go over to the other side. Count the first one. 1, 2, 3. Looks like we have a happy whale here. There we go. Now let's shape it. All right. What do you think? I can put my crochet hook in there. And see, with the doubled yarn, even though this is worsted weight, and the 3.75 hook, it's strong enough that it won't fall over. So let me put in some scissors. Here I have some knitting needles that we use for crochet to hold pieces in place. You see all the weight that I've been putting in on here? Let's see, I got some octopus pens from some of my friends. I love these little octopus things. Well, here's a pen with my name on it. So you can see that it's pretty strong. You can use it to hold your crochet items, or even pens and pencils. You could take it to work. Maybe you work in an office where you have like a sea theme. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I appreciate you being here with me. So till next time, bye-bye.